Picture your wedding day, the day you've dreamed about since you were a little girl, the flowers, the music, the dress you saved for, the man you love waiting at the end of the aisle. Now picture your mother-in-law walking in, late, deliberately late, wearing a white gown, not cream, not ivory, not it looked different in the store. White, bridal white, floor length, with a veil tucked into her hair like a crown. And when someone whispers, "Isn't that a bit much?" she smiles sweetly and says, loud enough for half the room to hear, "Well, someone at this wedding should look like they belong with my son." She didn't stop there. Oh no. During the reception, she grabbed the microphone, interrupted my wedding, and announced to 200 guests, my son should have married someone better. Someone from a real family. 200 guests. My family, my friends, my elderly grandmother who flew in from another country. She thought she'd ruin my night. She thought I'd cry. She thought I'd crumble. She didn't know about the toast I'd prepared. But before we get there, like this video right now, subscribe to my channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I want every country represented. Let's go. My name is Priya. I'm 29, and my husband James is the best man I've ever known. We met at a bookstore. Cliche, I know, but it's true. I was reaching for a novel on the top shelf. I'm 5'2", so top shelf is basically outer space for me, and this tall, kind-eyed man reached up and grabbed it for me. "Good choice," he said. "That one made me cry on an airplane." A man who reads and admits to crying? I was done for. We talked for 2 hours in that bookstore. Then we went for coffee, then dinner, then a walk that lasted until midnight. He was kind, genuinely kind. Not the performative kind that disappears after the first few dates. The deep kind. The kind that's woven into who someone is. 6 months in, I knew he was the one. A year in, he proposed. On a beach at sunset with sand between our toes and happy tears streaming down both our faces. It was perfect. Everything was perfect, except his mother. Her name was Linda, and Linda had decided, long before I ever existed, that no woman would ever be good enough for her James. James was her only child, her world, her identity. She'd built her entire life around being James's mother, and she viewed any woman in his life as a threat to that title. But with me, it was worse than usual, because I wasn't just any woman. I was Indian. James is white. His family is from a small town, and Linda, beneath her church every Sunday, cookies for the neighbors, sweet as pie exterior, had a very specific idea of who her son should marry. Someone who fit in, someone who understood the family, someone who looked like the women in the family photo albums going back 4 generations, someone who wasn't me. She never said it directly. Linda was too smart for that. She operated in implications, in raised eyebrows and careful pauses and questions that sounded innocent but landed like punches. Priya, that's such an interesting name. Is it hard for people to pronounce? Do you celebrate real holidays or just the other ones? James has always loved his grandmother's pot roast. Can you even make pot roast? Can I make pot roast? As if my culinary heritage, thousands of years of spices and techniques and flavors that would make her pot roast cry, was somehow insufficient because it didn't come from her recipe box. James saw it. He wasn't blind. And to his credit, he pushed back. Every time. "Mom, stop. Priya is the woman I love. Either get on board or get left behind." But Linda didn't get on board. She just got sneakier. Planning the wedding was a battlefield. James and I wanted a fusion ceremony, both cultures represented, Indian traditions and Western traditions, a celebration of who we both were coming together. My family was thrilled. My parents, my aunties, my grandmother, Nani, who was 83 and flew 14 hours from India to be there. They embraced James completely. My father called him Beta, "You son, you're from the very first dinner." My mother taught him to cook dal. My nanny held his face in her hands and said, "Good eyes, kind heart, he's a keeper." Linda's response to the fusion wedding? "I just think it might confuse people. Can't we keep it simple, traditional?" Traditional meaning, her tradition, only hers, as if mine didn't exist. James shut it down. We planned the wedding we wanted, a Hindu ceremony followed by a Western reception. Mehndi on my hands and a white dress on my body, marigolds and roses. 2 cultures, 1 love. Linda went quiet during the planning process. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that should have worried me. I thought she'd accepted it. I was so naive. The ceremony was beautiful. I'm not being modest. It was beautiful. The mandap was decorated with marigolds and white orchids. James wore a sherwani for the Hindu ceremony and looked so handsome I almost couldn't breathe. My father walked me down the aisle. My nanny blessed us with tears of joy streaming down her wrinkled, beautiful face. Linda sat in the front row during the ceremony with a tight smile and sunglasses she never took off. But she behaved. She was civil. She even complimented the flowers, once through gritted teeth. I thought, okay, maybe she's coming around. Maybe seeing how happy James is will soften her. Then the reception started. We'd changed into reception outfits. I was wearing a red lehenga, a gorgeous traditional Indian outfit, because red is the color of love and celebration in my culture. James wore a matching pocket square. We looked incredible together. The reception hall was filling up. 200 guests, both families, friends, colleagues, everyone we loved. And then Linda walked in. Late, 30 minutes late, deliberately late, because she wanted an entrance. And she got one. She was wearing a white gown, full length, beaded, with a small veil, an actual veil, pinned into her updo. She looked like a bride. At her son's wedding, she looked like a bride. The room went quiet, not silent, that would come later, but quiet in the way rooms get when everyone is thinking the same thing, but nobody wants to say it. My maid of honor, Annika, grabbed my arm. Tell me I'm hallucinating. You're not hallucinating. James saw his mother and his face went through about 7 emotions in 2 seconds. He started toward her, but I put my hand on his arm. Not now, I whispered, not during the reception. She wants a scene. Don't give her one. So we didn't. We smiled. We greeted guests. We pretended that the mother of the groom wasn't dressed like the bride's stunt double, but Linda wasn't done. An hour into the reception, dinner had been served, a fusion menu, Indian and Western, and it was phenomenal if I do say so myself. Guests were happy, the DJ was playing, everything was warm and joyful. Then Linda stood up, walked to the DJ booth, and took the microphone. Nobody stopped her because who expects their mother-in-law to hijack a wedding? It's not something you plan security protocols for. Everyone, can I have your attention? She said. Sweet voice, church smile, veil glittering under the lights. The room turned to look. I want to say a few words about my son, my beautiful, wonderful James. Okay, normal. Mother of the groom giving a speech. Fine. James has always been special. He's always been the kind of man who sees the best in people, even when, she looked at me, even when they're not his usual type. The room shifted. People exchanged glances. I've always imagined this day for my son, and I imagine it looking a little different, a little more traditional. But James has made his choice, and another loaded pause. I suppose we all have to accept things we don't understand. James was standing up. I could see him moving toward her, but Linda delivered her final line before he could reach her. I just think my son should have married someone better, someone from a real family, someone who fits into our world. Someone from a real family, my parents who worked 3 jobs to give me an education, my nanny who survived partition, raised 6 children, and flew 14 hours on arthritic knees to watch me get married. My aunties who spent weeks preparing food and decorations and gifts. Not a real family, according to Linda. The room was frozen. 200 people, nobody breathing. My mother's face had gone pale. My father's hands were gripping the table, and my nanny, my 83-year-old grandmother who understood enough English to know exactly what had been said, had tears in her eyes. Linda had made my grandmother cry at my wedding, and that was the moment something inside me went very, very calm. Not angry, calm. The kind of calm that comes right before a hurricane makes landfall. James had reached his mother. He was speaking to her in a low, furious voice. The room was murmuring. People were uncomfortable. The DJ looked like he wanted to evaporate. I walked to the DJ booth. I took the microphone from the stand, and I tapped it twice. The room went silent. Actually silent. 200 pairs of eyes on me. The Indian girl in the red lehenga. The bride who'd just been publicly humiliated by her mother-in-law. The woman Linda thought would crumble. I smiled. Well, that was a speech. A few nervous laughs. I actually had a toast prepared for tonight. I was going to save it for later, but I think now is the perfect time. I took a breath and I spoke. Linda, thank you for sharing your feelings. I mean that sincerely. because you've just given me the greatest wedding gift I could ask for, the chance to say something I've been holding inside for 2 years. The room was locked on me. You said James should have married someone better, someone from a real family, so let me tell you about my real family. My father came to this country with $40 in his pocket and a degree no one here recognized. He worked at a gas station, then a restaurant, then 2 restaurants, then he put himself through school again and became an engineer. He built a life from nothing. That man, sitting right there, is the hardest working person I have ever known. I pointed at my dad. His eyes were glistening. My mother, who you've never bothered to have a real conversation with, is a nurse who has held dying patients' hands at 3 a.m. and then come home and packed school lunches at 6. She has more compassion in her little finger than most people have in their whole body. And my Nani, my grandmother, the woman you just made cry at my wedding, survived things you cannot imagine. She lost her home, her siblings, nearly her life during partition. She rebuilt everything. She raised 6 children. She is 83 years old, and she flew across an ocean to be here today because that is what real family does. They show up. I let it land. You asked who I am. You've been asking since the day James brought me home, so let me answer you clearly. I am the daughter of immigrants. I am a woman of 2 cultures. I am someone who knows how to make pot roast and biryani, and I am the woman your son chose. Not because he settled, not because he couldn't do better, but because he is the kind of man, the kind of good, decent, extraordinary man who sees people for who they are, not what they look like. I looked at James. He was standing by the dance floor with tears streaming down his face and the biggest, proudest smile I'd ever seen. And honestly, Linda, he didn't get that from you. Gasps from the room, actual gasps. He got it despite you. He became kind despite your narrowness. He became open-hearted despite your closed-mindedness. He became the man I love not because of how he was raised, but because of the choices he made to be different. I raised my glass. So here is my toast to James, the man who reached for a book on a top shelf and ended up reaching for a whole new world. To my family, my real, beautiful, extraordinary family, who taught me that strength is not about where you come from, but how you love. And to everyone in this room who showed up today to celebrate love instead of judge it. I looked directly at Linda. You wore white to my wedding to upstage me, but I'm wearing red. Because in my culture, red is the color of power, of love, of new beginnings. And Linda, I don't need white to know who the bride is. I smiled. Calm, steady, unshaken. To love, real love. The room erupted. Not polite clapping. Erupted. Standing ovation. My family, James's friends, even some of Linda's own relatives were on their feet cheering. My nanny, my tiny, fierce, 83-year-old grandmother, stood up, walked across the room, took my face in both her hands and said in Hindi, "That is my granddaughter. I've never felt more powerful in my entire life." Linda left the reception immediately after my toast. She didn't say goodbye to anyone. She just picked up her white skirt and walked out. James found me on the dance floor 5 minutes later. He pulled me close and whispered in my ear, "I have never been more proud to be your husband." We danced, we laughed, we celebrated with the people who actually loved us. And it was, despite everything, because of everything, the most beautiful night of my life. Linda didn't speak to us for 4 months. When she finally reached out, it was a short email to James. Not an apology, more of a, "Can we move past this?" James wrote back, "We can move forward when you apologize to Priya, to her face, and to your grandmother." It took Linda another 2 months, but she did it. She came to our home. I made chai because I'm generous like that, and she apologized. It was stiff, it was awkward, it was clearly painful for her, but she said the words. "I was wrong. I'm sorry. Your family is wonderful, and I was too small to see it." I accepted her apology, not because she deserved it, but because holding on to her hatred was taking up space that belonged to joy, and I had too much joy to make room for her bitterness. We're not best friends. We'll probably never be, but we're civil. She's learning, slowly, painfully, the way people learn when their worldview cracks open and the light gets in. Last Diwali, she showed up at our door with a box of sweets she'd bought from an Indian bakery. She handed them to me sheepishly. I asked the shop owner to help me pick the right ones. She said, "I hope I got it right." She got it right. Not just the sweets, the effort, the trying, the beginning of something that might, with enough time and enough grace, become real. To every woman who has ever been told she's not enough, not the right color, not the right culture, not the right background, not the right anything, listen to me. You are not too much. You are not too different. You are not too foreign or too loud or too proud. You are exactly right, exactly as you are. And anyone who can't see that, that's a problem with their eyes, not with your worth. Smash that like button if this story made you feel something. Subscribe if you haven't already. This channel is a family and we welcome everyone, no exceptions. Comment below, where are you watching from? And tell me, have you ever dealt with someone who tried to make you feel like you didn't belong? I want to hear your stories. Share this with someone who needs to remember that they are enough. You are enough. You've always been enough. I'll see you in the next one.